A very good Saturday afternoon to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to what is a tropical as well as European outlook. Getting a little bit of both today, given the tropics remain relatively quiet and not a whole lot has changed since I last spoke about the tropics back on Thursday. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. A very warm welcome to you. I hope you're enjoying the content. And also for existing viewers and subscribers, a good afternoon to you as well. 7 days a week, unbiased, unhyped content here on Vogan Weather on YouTube. We have got interesting things coming up this week. If you are a lover of autumn and even early winter conditions, then I think we have got an interesting upcoming 7 days to come. Thanks to a favourable MJO, a tanking of the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, we appear to have the season's second Arctic outbreak coming. So this is 2 waves of Arctic air during the month of September. Don't often see that actually, especially in recent times, but it looks as if we are getting that this upcoming week. We could see temperatures struggling to get much out of upper single figures across the north and low double digits across the south for daytime maximums, and overnight temperatures with clear skies and light winds. We could see some fairly cold temperatures as well. But Global Weather and Climate Report live stream will be up at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, looking at all things global. So I hope you can join me for that. It would be good to see you. And let's get to the tropics. Not a whole lot to speak about, given the fact that we're in the heart of the Atlantic hurricane season. 2 invest areas over the Atlantic. We've got the remnants of a system here. I don't know if that's the remnants or a new depression, but it's 17 anyway, between northern Taiwan and China. We've also got the tropical storm Pulasan, which appears to be floating around on the southern flank of Japan. Looking at the latest from the NHC, you can see here that we do have 2 areas at the moment over the next 48 hours with a 10% chance given to both, one of which is the remnants of Gordon. Then if we look at the 7-day graphical tropical outlook, we've got the 2 areas that I've already mentioned. We've got one area here to the west of Cape Verde, which has a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days, and then we've got a 60% chance. We've got, essentially, we haven't got a physical entity over this region, so it's very, very difficult. The models have been suggesting Category 5 hurricanes coming ashore in the central Gulf Coast of the United States. We've had all sorts of different model output, but until we actually get a physical development here, both of the Central American gyre, which I alluded to on Thursday, and some feature perhaps spinning off that larger low pressure system, then it's very much a guessing game in terms of the eventual outcome. So there's really not an awful lot to talk about with regards to this. I can show you the ensemble. I can show you operational deterministic runs, but it's throwing up all sorts of scenarios. I think we are going to see the development of a larger, broader scale low pressure system as the Manjulian oscillation continues to become more amplified, actually, as it moves out of 7 into 8 into 1, and then eventually it looks as if it's going to rotate into phases 2 and 3. This is the convection over the tropical Pacific moving eastwards. Eventually we'll have large scale upward motion over the Atlantic basin. That too is also helping drive this firmly negative North Atlantic oscillation, and that will discharge the Arctic air into the western half of Europe this upcoming work week. What's interesting about all this is it's a second spell of Arctic air this September, something you don't often see, especially in recent years. But the NAO is going very, very deeply negative, and without getting into the details, because I've already spoken long enough about this with regards to the reasons behind this. We went from a record strong positive North Atlantic oscillation during the majority of August in particular, but the majority of the summer has seen a positive NAO signal, and then all of a sudden we've dropped into negative territory, and now we're plunging right down towards between -2 and -3 sigma below neutral. And you're asking the question, why is that the case? And I don't want to spend today looking into the technicalities of the reason behind it, but essentially I think the the increase in the La Nina. We've also seen the response more to the atmosphere. That's slowed down the westerly flow. We've got the potential record weak polar vortex, which also has a slowing down process of the flow around the northern hemisphere, and a lot of built up warmth across the mid latitude pattern now starting to move north. It is essentially the evolution in terms of why we're seeing this taking place. But that Manjulian oscillation, I think the SOI going from negative to positive was the initial slowing down of momentum within the mid and upper levels. Then we've seen the first shot of colder into the pattern. Then with a strengthening of phase 5 into phase 6, that has really built the pressure over the continent here, especially further north. We've replaced high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north with the opposite, high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south. Then as that Arctic air moved into the European pattern, first of all, we then seen the clash of air masses over Central Europe, the record warm Mediterranean, that extreme rainfall event, which was foreseen. It wasn't, it didn't come without warning. It was forecasted here in the channel that we would see an extreme rainfall event due to the atmosphere and also the Mediterranean sea surface temperature profile as well. All those things coming in together. I think this is nature's way of releasing some of that heat that has been building up throughout the past several months over Europe. We're starting to chip away at that heat. But that heat has to go somewhere, and I think it's going up towards the high latitudes, creating this very deep negative NAO, negative Arctic oscillation. We're also seeing the potential tropospheric response up into the stratosphere, weakening the polar vortex initially. It is expected, by the way, to go into positive territory as we move into the middle and second half of October. We are expecting the polar vortex to become stronger. But up until then, I've said in yesterday's video how I think October has the potential of being a fairly chilly, at least first half to the month, possibly the first 20 days of the month, possibly the whole month as a whole. I've made mention of that, and I looked at that in detail in yesterday's video, so check that out if you haven't already done so. But let's have a look and see what the CFSV2 is showing for the upcoming 7 days. By the way, this is the month to date, so we're close to average across the UK and Ireland here, below average across France, below average across Iberia, and then Central, Eastern, and Northern Europe is warmer than average, as you can see here. If we look at the 1 day increments here, I want to show you this because it's been very interesting how this pattern has evolved actually. We've seen the strong build in high pressure across Central and Northern Europe. Then we've seen the demise of that. We've seen low pressure to the south over the UK, higher pressure to the north. And essentially this pattern that we've got at the moment is essentially repeated itself at least twice already. And then we're going to see the next wave of Arctic air plunge south. Do we have another extreme rainfall event coming up over Central and Eastern Europe? We don't have as much heat across Central and Eastern Europe as we did have, so we don't have quite as much fuel to tap. But nonetheless, it's fascinating to see how this pattern has essentially done full circle twice during the month of September already, with this high over low pattern, Arctic air moving south, then the high building back north, low pressure to the south again. Then we're seeing another wave of Arctic air coming up in the next 7 days or so here. So this kind of repeating cycle has got my interest in quite a big way actually. But the CFSV2 a day or so ago had no cold in its outlook. This is the upcoming 7 days showing colder north, warmer south. But look at this here. Look at this here for the second week. This is the 20th of September through the 5th of October. Below average across the UK, Ireland, and near continent. Then we flip back warmer than average. And that would not surprise me. We are going to see a recovery both in the AO and the NAO. But how quickly that recovery comes remains to be seen. But that's interesting how, let's actually go back to the 18Z Friday run. Upcoming 7 days, then the following 7 days, it does still have that cold signal, which is interesting. But I remember looking back, a day and a half ago or so, and it did not see anything cold coming. This, by the way, is off the GFS ensemble. Cold north, warm south. And then as we play through the loop, you can see here the cold coming in bodily from the north as the high slips west and northwest up towards Greenland here. So that's the 6 to 10 day. And then even as we skip all the way out towards the 12 to 16 day, which is the 2nd through the 7th of October, we still have below average conditions here. So interesting stuff, I must admit. Looking at the GFS operational here, go back to the here now. Let's play through the animation. Warmer than average at the moment here, but then you can see the cold coming down from the north and wiping out that warmth anomaly here. So we are actually going to push the average conditions at the moment for the month below average, and this month could end up turning out to be below average in terms of the month of September. So this is turning out to be quite an interesting month actually, and really the trend, remember, has been below average June, below average July, slightly warmer than average August. But this is turning out to be a fascinating situation really unfolding. And then this is the snow prospects off the GFS between now and through to the early portions of October. Not a whole lot to speak about. Last night's run actually had a little bit more snow over the higher ground of the north. Looking at the breakdown in this situation, we still have high to the north, low to the south, but we are starting to see heights lower over the UK with this disturbance over northern Iberia, southern France, now drifting northwards. This is off the ICON model, by the way, today. You can see here the disturbed weather, the destabilising of the air mass over the British Isles, lifting north as we progress in through the course of tomorrow. That high still holding on even into the early portions of next week here. But then notice the frontal system moving down from the north as the frontal system moves south. It's actually forcing the low that's drifting up from France to then get pushed to the east. And as it does so, it then opens the door to colder air coming in from the north. We've got an area of low pressure that's moving in from the Atlantic, but the presence of that northerly flow is kind of pushing everything south and east, if you notice here, according to the ICON model. And then we see a fairly deep area of low pressure getting forced eastwards here. The storm track getting forced to the south. You notice here, even northern Iberia picking up on disturbed weather here as that Arctic air comes southwards here. Looking at the GFS run here, let's look at the bigger picture and see what it's showing. So there's this low pressure system to the south of the British Isles. That area of high pressure continues to get lifted northwards here. You notice here that the system then moves north. We've got a slightly more active jet as we've got a bit of a tighter gradient between cold to the north and warm to the south. Areas of low pressure then run that jet getting forced further and further south. As we build pressure, the high pressure is becoming strong over the North Atlantic and Greenland. So even that active jet is getting displaced further south. Lots of unsettled conditions as we move towards the middle portions of next week. And then it's as low pressure moves east, you then open the door to northerly air coming in. And that is a fairly cold air mass for the end of September. Looking at the 850 temperatures here, so we've got relatively fresher in the mid-number levels. There's that cold air coming south. There's the tight gradient here, area of low pressure forming on the northern flank of the jet here. But that is a very, very tight gradient here between warm air and fairly cold air. And it's as these areas of low pressure move to the east and south, then it opens the door to that cold air coming southwards here. You can see the cold coming in as we move towards the latter half of next week here. And then we've got another area of low pressure moving in off the Atlantic. So, so we'll look at how cold days are going to be, how cold nights are going to be, as we'll look at the European outlook back on Monday. So interesting times in terms of cold coming back into the pattern. Do you like the cold, or are you more of a late summery autumn kind of person that does not like cold? Let me know in the comments section below. But it'll be interesting to see just how cold this air mass is during the course of next week. Stay tuned, like, share and subscribe. See you in the live stream, all being well, tomorrow, and I'll be back on Monday with the next European outlook. Bye for now.